An untamable horse, a young autistic boy. Everyone believed it was impossible. Until the unimaginable happened. What this boy does will challenge everything. You think you know about courage and connection. Prepare for a story that will leave you speechless. The day the horse arrived at the small town rescue ranch, the entire staff gathered near the paddock fence. Curiosity etched on their faces. He was unlike any horse they'd seen before, towering with a sleek black coat that gleamed in the sunlight. His eyes were fiery, darting back and forth as if searching for a way to escape. His nostrils flared and his hooves struck the ground with defiance. This was Thunder, a horse whose reputation had preceded him. He's trouble, muttered one of the ranch hands. A rancher tried breaking him last year, didn't go well. Emma, the ranch owner, crossed her arms and sighed. Will keep him separated for now, give him time to adjust. Nearby, 10-year-old Ethan sat cross-legged on the grass, his headphones snug over his ears. The world around him was often overwhelming, but the ranch was his safe space. Horses were his retreat, a world where words weren't necessary and emotions spoke louder than actions. Emma approached Ethan with a gentle smile. That's Thunder, she said, pointing toward the paddock. He's a bit of a challenge. Ethan's eyes flickered toward the horse. He studied Thunder for a moment, then returned his gaze to the ground, tapping a rhythmic beat on his knee. Emma didn't push him. She had learned long ago that Ethan moved at his own pace. As the weeks passed, Thunder's fiery temperament proved to be more than the ranch staff had bargained for. He refused to be saddled, kicked at anyone who came near, and paced his paddock relentlessly. Emma was beginning to wonder if he could ever be tamed. One afternoon, Ethan wandered to Thunder's paddock. He had seen the horse from afar, but never up close. Today, something drew him near. He leaned against the fence, his headphones dangling around his neck, and watched as Thunder stomped and snorted. The horse's energy was overwhelming, but Ethan didn't flinch. For hours he sat silently by the fence, observing Thunder's every move. When the horse grew still, Ethan began to hum a soft, soothing melody that seemed to drift on the wind. Thunder's ears flicked toward the sound, his muscles tensing slightly, but he didn't bolt. Instead, he watched Ethan with guarded curiosity. Emma noticed the scene from a distance and frowned. She approached, cautiously, unsure if she should intervene. Ethan, honey, he's not safe, she said gently. Hugh, not angry, Ethan replied, his voice barely audible. He's scared. Emma blinked in surprise. It wasn't the first time Ethan had seemed to understand something about the horses that others couldn't, but this felt different. Before she could respond, Thunder let out a low snort and took a tentative step closer to the fence. Ethan didn't move. He simply continued humming, his eyes locked on Thunder's. For a moment, the fiery stallion seemed to soften, his wild energy giving way to a quiet curiosity. When Emma recounted the moment to the other staff later that evening, they dismissed it as coincidence. He's just a kid, one of them said. Thunder's not going to change because of a song. But Emma wasn't so sure. She had seen something in that interaction, something she couldn't quite explain. As the sun set over the ranch, Ethan returned to his usual spot near the paddock. Thunder stood at a distance, his silhouette dark against the fading light. But as Ethan began to hum again, the horse took another step forward, closing the gap between them. What could a boy and a wild horse teach each other in a world that believed neither could succeed? The following days at the ranch unfolded like a delicate dance. Every afternoon, Ethan wandered to Thunder's paddock. He would sit on the same patch of grass, cross-legged, his headphones resting around his neck. He didn't bring treats or a rope, and he never tried to touch Thunder. Instead, he hummed softly, his calming tune drifting through the warm air. Thunder, once restless and wild, began to change in subtle ways. He no longer charged the fence when people approached, and his pacing had softened to a slow, deliberate walk. The ranch hands noticed but couldn't explain it. Emma, however, had a theory. It's Ethan, she told her. Assistant Clara, somehow he's reaching Thunder in a way none of us can. Clara frowned, but how he doesn't even interact with the horse the way we would. Emma smiled faintly. Maybe that's the point. One afternoon, Ethan returned to the paddock with a small sketch pad drawing. Had always been his way of processing the world, a world that often overwhelmed him. Thunder stood at a distance watching as Ethan's pencil moved across the page. The boy glanced up now and then, his gaze flickering between the horse and his drawing. After an hour, Thunder took another step closer to the fence, his head dipping slightly as if to inspect the boy's work. Ethan turned the sketch pad around, revealing a simple but heartfelt drawing of a horse that looked remarkably like Thunder. For the first time, Ethan spoke directly to the stallion. You're not angry, he said softly. You just don't trust anyone yet. Emma, standing at the barn door, overheard him and felt a lump form in her throat. It was as though Ethan wasn't just talking to Thunder, he was speaking from his own experience. Later that week, Emma approached Ethan with an idea. Would you like to help me with Thunder? She asked, kneeling beside him as he sketched near the paddock. Ethan hesitated, his pencil pausing mid-stroke. What do you mean we can work with him together? Emma explained, just simple things at first, like walking him around the paddock or helping him get used to a saddle. Ethan's brow furrowed. But he doesn't like people, and smiled. He likes you. That evening, under Emma's careful guidance, Ethan entered to Thunder's paddock for the first time. The boy's movements were slow and deliberate, mirroring the horse's caution. Thunder flinched slightly as Ethan approached, but he didn't bolt. Instead, he lowered his head, his dark eyes watching the boy intently. Ethan held out his hand, palm up, and began to hum. The sound seemed to calm Thunder, who took a tentative step forward when his velvety nose brushed against Ethan's fingers. The boy's face lit up with a smile so radiant it brought tears to Emma's eyes. That's it, she said softly. Just let him come to you. For the next hour, Ethan walked alongside Thunder, his hand lightly resting on the horse's neck. The stallion's usual tension seemed to melt away, his steps matching Ethan's, in perfect rhythm. By the time they returned to the gate, a small group of ranch hands had gathered, their faces a mix of astonishment and disbelief. Clara shook her head, her voice filled with wonder. I've never seen anything like it. As Emma helped Ethan back to his chair, she knelt beside him and whispered, you're doing something amazing, Ethan. You're showing Thunder that he can trust again. Ethan looked at her, his voice steady but soft. Oh, he's showing me too. That night, as Ethan lay in bed, his mind raced with possibilities. Thunder had let him in, trusted him, but what if he couldn't live up to everyone's expectations? What if, like Thunder, he wasn't ready to take the next step? The next morning, the ranch buzzed with talk about Ethan and Thunder. Word of their unlikely bond had spread quickly and ran. Chance, who had written Thunder off as a lost cause, now watched in quiet amazement. For Emma, it was a testament to the power of patience and connection. For Ethan, it was the first time he felt like he truly belonged. Ethan returned to the paddock after breakfast, his sketch pad tucked under his arm. Thunder was already near the fence, his ears flicking forward as the boy approached. Emma watched from a distance, marveling at how the horse's once defensive posture had softened. Morning, boy, Ethan said, his voice quiet but steady. He opened the gate with Emma's help and stepped inside. Thunder didn't flinch as Ethan moved closer, and when the boy placed his hand on the horse's neck, a ripple of warmth spread through him. Emma entered the paddock with a lead rope and saddle. I was thinking we could try something new today, she said, her tone light. No pressure, of course, just see how he feels about wearing a saddle. Ethan glanced at Thunder, then back at Emma. Okay, he said, his voice tinged with uncertainty, but only if he's ready. Emma handed Ethan the soft leather halter guiding him through the motions of slipping it over Thunder's head. The horse stood still, his dark eyes watching Ethan intently. When the halter was secure, Ethan gave Thunder a reassuring pat. "Good boy," he whispered. Oh, Emma placed the saddle on the fence, letting Thunder sniff it before draping it gently over his back. The stallion shifted slightly but didn't resist Ethan, stayed close, humming softly a melody that had become their shared language. For the next hour, Ethan and Emma worked together, adjusting the saddle and walking Thunder around the paddock. It was slow progress, but every step felt like a victory by the time they finished. Thunder was calm, his movements fluid and confident. "You're a natural," Emma said, smiling at Ethan. "He trusts you completely." Ethan beamed, but his smile faded when he noticed a small crowd gathered near the fence. Clara and a few ranch hands were watching, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Don't worry about them," Emma said gently. "This is about you and Thunder." That afternoon, Ethan decided to stay near the paddock sketching while Thunder grazed. He didn't notice the ranch hand approaching until he heard the voice. "You know he's still wild, right?" said Mike, one of the newer workers. His tone wasn't harsh, but it carried an edge of doubt. One good scare and he could snap. Ethan's grip on his pencil tightened. He didn't reply, but his shoulders tensed. Emma, who had been nearby, stepped in. "That's enough, Mike," she said firmly. "Thunder come farther in the past week with Ethan than he ever did with anyone else." Mike shrugged. "I'm just saying, wild horses don't change, and neither do people." Ethan's eyes dropped to his sketch pad, the weight of Mike's words sinking in. Emma knelt beside him, her voice soft but resolute. "Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself, Ethan, what you're doing with Thunder. It's real, and it's amazing." That evening, Ethan sat in the barn beside Thunder's stall, the soft sounds of the ranch lulling him into a calm. He reached out, running his fingers through Thunder's "Man, I know what it's like," he murmured, "to feel like you don't fit anywhere, but we're proving them wrong, aren't we?" Thunder nickered softly, his ears flicking toward Ethan. The boy smiled, a quiet determination settling over him. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone but himself and Thunder. As the barn lights dimmed and the night deepened, Ethan made a silent promise to Thunder they would take the next step together, no matter how difficult. But as the shadows stretched across the ranch, neither of them could foresee the test that awaited them. The ranch was unusually quiet the next morning, the air heavy with the promise of rain. Ethan arrived at the paddock as usual, but something felt different. Thunder paced near the fence, his movements restless, his ears flicked back and forth, and his nostrils flared as he sniffed the air. Emma noticed a change immediately. "Storm's coming," she said, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Horses can sense it before we do. It's probably making him uneasy." Ethan frowned, watching Thunder. "What do we do?" Emma smiled gently. "We stick to what we've been doing, show him that he can trust us no matter what." Ethan nodded, his determination outweighing his nerves. He opened the gate and stepped inside with Emma by his side. Thunder turned towards them, his dark eyes wary but not hostile. Ethan began humming softly, his voice steady despite the growing tension in the air. They worked on simple exercises, at first walking Thunder around the path with the saddle loosely strapped to his back. The stallion seemed calmer with Ethan nearby, but the looming storm was a reminder of how fragile their progress could be. Halfway through their session, a sharp crack of thunder echoed across the ranch. Thunder reared slightly, his hooves striking the ground as his muscles tensed. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. Emma stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Easy, boy, it's okay." But Thunder's anxiety was contagious. He pulled against the lead rope, his eyes wide with fear. Ethan felt a pang of helplessness, but he refused to give up. Dropping the rope, he stepped closer, his hands outstretched "It's okay, Thunder," he said softly, his voice trembling. "You're not alone." The stallion hesitated, his breathing shallow. For a moment, Ethan thought Thunder might bolt, but then something shifted. The horse's ears flicked toward Ethan, and he lowered his head slightly, his movements uncertain but deliberate. Emma watched in awe as Ethan reached out and rested a hand on Thunder's neck. The boy's voice grew stronger as he hummed a familiar melody, and slowly the tension in Thunder's body began to ease. "You did it," Emma whispered, her voice filled with pride, but their relief was short-lived. A gust of wind blew through the ranch, rattling the barn doors and sending loose hay flying. Thunder spooked, pulling sharply against the saddle strap. Before anyone could react, the saddle slid off his back and hit the ground. With a loud thud, the noise sent Thunder into a frenzy. He reared again, his hooves barely missing Ethan, who stumbled backward. Emma rushed forward, pulling Ethan to safety as the stallion bolted across the paddock. "Thunder!" Ethan cried, his voice breaking. He struggled against Emma's hold, desperate to reach the horse. "Ethan, stop!" Emma said, her voice firm. "It's too dangerous." But Ethan's eyes were locked on Thunder, who was now pacing near the far side of the paddock, his energy wild and uncontrolled. "He needs me," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "I can calm him." Emma hesitated. Every instinct told her to keep Ethan away from the panicked horse, but she had seen the bond they shared. Taking a deep breath, she loosened her grip. "Be careful," she said. "I'm right here if you need me." Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. Thunder's eyes were wild, his movements erratic, but the boy didn't falter. He began humming again, his voice cutting through the storm like a beacon. Thunder paused, his ears twitching toward the sound. Slowly Ethan approached, his hands outstretched. The stallion's breathing slowed, his muscles relaxing as Ethan drew closer. When Ethan finally reached him, he placed a hand on Thunder's neck and whispered, "It's okay, I'm here." The horse lowered his head, pressing his muzzle against Ethan's chest. The boy smiled, tears streaming down his face as the storm raged around them. Emma watched from a distance, her heart swelling with pride and relief. Ethan and Thunder had faced the storm and each other's fears, and come out stronger. As the rain began to fall in gentle drops, Ethan led Thunder back to the barn. But as Emma looked toward the horizon, dark clouds still loomed. This was only the beginning of the challenges they would face together. The morning after the storm, the ranch was alive with activity. The rain had refreshed the pastures, and the air was crisp with the scent of wet earth. Ethan sat near the paddock, sketch pad in hand, but his focus was entirely on Thunder. The horse stood tall, his coat glistening in the sunlight, a stark contrast to the frantic animal he had been the night before. Emma approached with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking, Ethan," she began, kneeling beside him. "Thunder trusts you in a way I've never seen before. Have you thought about riding him?" Ethan's eyes widened. "Riding him?" Emma smiled. "It doesn't have to be today, but I think you two are ready if you're willing to try. I'll be with you every step of the way." Ethan hesitated, his mind racing. The idea was thrilling but also terrifying. Thunder was so powerful, so unpredictable. But then he looked at the horse, who seemed to be watching him with a calm, steady gaze. "Okay," Ethan said. Finally, Leighton tried that afternoon. Emma and Clara set up the equipment in the paddock, ensuring everything was safe and secure. Ethan stood by the fence, his heart pounding as Emma approached with the saddle. Thunder didn't flinch as she placed it on his back, his trust in Ethan overriding his usual weariness. Ethan wheeled himself closer, his hands trembling slightly. Emma knelt beside him, her voice calm. "We'll take it slow, just let him feel your presence." With Emma's help, Ethan was lifted onto Thunder's back. The sensation was overwhelming, being so high off the ground, feeling the horse's strength beneath him. For a moment he froze, his hands gripping the saddle tightly. "It's okay," Emma said gently. "He's got you." Ethan took a deep breath his body, relaxing as he leaned forward slightly. Thunder shifted beneath him, but his movements were steady and deliberate as if he understood the importance of this moment. "Let's walk," Emma said, holding the lead rope and guiding Thunder in a slow circle. Ethan's heart raced, but as they moved, he began to adjust to the rhythm of the horse's steps. After a few laps, Emma paused. "Do you want to try guiding him yourself?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Emma handed him the reins, her hands hovering nearby in case he needed help. "Just like we practiced," she said. "Use gentle pressure." Ethan gave a soft tug on the reins, and to his amazement, Thunder responded immediately, turning in the direction he indicated. A wide smile broke across Ethan's face as they moved together, the boy and the once untamable horse in perfect harmony. The ranch hands gathered near the fence, their skepticism replaced by awe. Clara wiped a tear from her eye. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "He's doing it." Emma stood back, her chest swelling with pride. "They both are." As the sun began to set, Ethan and Thunder came to a stop near the center of the paddock. The boy leaned forward, resting his hand on the horse's neck. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Thunder nickered softly, his ears flicking back, as if to acknowledge the words. For Ethan, this moment was more than an accomplishment. It was a breakthrough, a testament to the power of trust and connection. That evening, as Ethan sat in the barn beside Thunder's stall, Emma joined him. "You were incredible today," she said. "Both of you." Ethan looked at her, his expression serious. "He's not just a horse," he said. "He's my friend." Emma smiled, her eyes glistening. "And you're his." As the barn lights dimmed and the ranch settled into quiet, Emma received a call. It was from a local equestrian showcase inviting Ethan and Thunder to perform a demonstration. Could they take their bond to the next level and show the world what they had achieved? The news of the equestrian showcase spread through the ranch like wildfire. Emma approached Ethan with the invitation, her excitement barely contained. "They want you and Thunder to perform," she said, holding the flyer in her hand. "It's a chance to show everyone what you've accomplished." Ethan's eyes widened. "Perform like in front of people?" Emma knelt beside him. "Yes, but it's not a competition. It's just a demonstration. You and Thunder showing how far you've come." "No pressure." Ethan hesitated, glancing toward Thunder's stall. The idea of performing in front of strangers made his stomach twist, but he couldn't ignore the quiet confidence he felt whenever he was with Thunder. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, we'll do it." The following week was a whirlwind of preparation. Emma and Clara worked tirelessly to ensure Thunder was ready, while Ethan practiced guiding him through simple routines. They added small jumps and maneuvers, building a routine that showcased the bond between the boy and the horse. The day of the showcase arrived and the ranch team loaded Thunder into the trailer. Ethan sat quietly in the passenger seat, his headphones around his neck, and used his fingers tapped nervously on his knees as they drove toward the arena. When they arrived, the crowd was larger than Ethan had imagined. Riders and their horses moved about the staging area, and the air buzzed with excitement. Ethan's heart raced as they LED Thunder out of the trailer. Emma knelt beside him, her voice calm. "You've got this, Ethan. Just focus on Thunder. No one else matters." The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ethan and Thunder, a story of trust, courage, and the unbreakable bond between a boy and his horse." As Ethan entered the arena, the crowd fell silent. The sight of the boy in the wheelchair guiding the powerful black horse captivated everyone. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he held the reins, but Thunder moved with quiet confidence, responding to every cue. They began with simple movements, walking, turning, and stopping on command. The crowd watched in awe as the boy and the horse moved in perfect harmony. Then came the jumps. Emma had kept them low, knowing Thunder's history and Ethan's. Inexperienced, but as they approached the first hurdle, Ethan's nerves returned you. Can do this, he whispered to Thunder. We can do this, Thunder's ears flicked back. And as they reached the jump, he leapt, gracefully clearing it with ease. The crowd erupted into applause, but Ethan barely noticed his focus was entirely on Thunder, his trust in the horse guiding them through the routine. By the time they finished, the arena was filled with cheers. Ethan dismounted with Emma's help, his face flushed with pride. Thunder stood tall beside him, his coat gleaming. Under the arena lights, a man approached them, his expression filled with admiration. That was incredible, he said. You've shown us all something truly special. Ethan looked at Thunder, his hand resting on the horse's neck. It's not just me, he said. Thunder made it possible. As they loaded Thunder back into the trailer, Ethan felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He had doubted himself, but Thunder had never doubted him. Together they had achieved something extraordinary. That evening back at the ranch, Ethan sat beside Thunder's stall, sketch pad in hand. He drew the moment they had shared in the arena, the boy and the horse side by side, proving to the world that trust could overcome anything. As the sun set over the ranch, Ethan whispered to Thunder, we did it, boy. And this is just the beginning. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Join us for more inspiring stories of connection, courage, and the incredible bond between humans and animals.